For over 20 years, Eric Nate's Euro Hockey has been helping hockey players of all ages develop their individual skills and improve on all aspects of their game. Through structured drills and innovative training equipment, Eric Nate's Euro Hockey's intense on-ice instruction challenges each student to be the best at their ability. Find a hockey clinic or summer camp that is right for you today at nateshockey.com. That's Nates hockey.com. Eric Nate's Euro Hockey, train to be the best.
And welcome into the New England Hockey Journal's RinkWise Podcast. I'm your host, Evan Marinofsky, joined as always by the great Patrick Donnelly. Pat, what's up?
Not much, Evan. We're coming off Beanpot Monday. That's always a nice thing. Super Bowl week. A lot of prep hockey to unpack. Another good week.
Good sports time. Good sports time of year. It's tough when football ends because that's like what you do on Sundays. It was weird this past Sunday without it, but maybe we'll do a Super Bowl prediction at the end, we'll like we do with prep championships. We'll throw one in there. How was the Beanpot, by the way? We're recording this on Tuesday morning. You were there last night. How was it?
It was good. Big night for the Bruins prospects. Everybody loves, the James Hagans and Dean Latorno content. I thought BC looked really good against Harvard. Harvard actually, for the most part, played okay, and then BC just, you get a couple quick ones at the end of the first, and you pull away and. So, where I was stationed for photos, there were 3 seats to my left that were open like all night. And I had some friends at the game and they just came and talked to me while I was shooting the second game. And, he's a BC fan. And I'm sitting there saying, like, during the BU and Northeastern game, I was like, man, BC would smoke either of these teams. And, they just beat BU last weekend. So wouldn't be surprising. But, he just got that look in his eyes. BC hasn't won the Beanpot in like a decade. It's kind of their boogeyman. They pretend they don't care about it. It's just the Frozen Four and the national championships in Hockey East that matters. It's just an in-season tournament. But he got that look in his eyes, like, oh man, another Beanpot final. We haven't one of those in like a decade. So
pupils dilate a little bit. You're like, oh, that means a little more to him.
Yeah, it's like that the meme of the dog with the flashbacks. You just got that look about a Beanpot final. But the BU game, it was like as my thoughts on just BU hockey over the years. It was like, they just absolutely dominate possession a lot from the perimeter. This isn't a college hockey podcast, but we can save my thoughts.
He's scratching an itch, everybody. He's scratching an itch.
Save my overall thoughts on this year's BU team for another time and place. But it's like, man, I've seen this movie before. They're going to dominate. Northeastern's going to get an ugly one down here, and Northeastern takes a lead. But BU sticks with it. 3-on-3 OT and a shootout in a Beanpot is not great, but BU alum won't complain about the result.
It's a good championship. BCBU next week. I like that. Day after the Super Bowl. Like what?
Yeah, it's like, imagine if it was like if you got a Harvard and Northeastern Beanpot, kind of like a Texans Seahawks Super Bowl.
Yeah, Harvard's the one. I mean, the tiniest student section if they even show up.
They were actually okay last night.
They were?
Compared to expectations.
Okay. Bar's pretty low.
They weren't really loud, but the numbers were okay.
All these prep kids that I watch on the boys' side, and same with you on the girls' side, go to Harvard. Then I root for Harvard. Then I'm like, I got some stake in the game. I know these kids. I like these kids, and it'll be the same with you with girls.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll go over and join the fan section because I don't have a Beanpot allegiance, so maybe I'll pick Harvard when these prep kids when they get there. And there are a couple for boys that are already there: Richard Gallant, Sean Cohane. So maybe if I was there, I was not there on Monday, but if I was there, maybe I would have went in the Harvard student section. Switch things up. Anybody, by the way, want to plug your work, Pat? Photos were outstanding, as always. I was not surprised, but phenomenal photos. You can go check those out on Pat's Twitter. We in the Beanpot story we ran on Monday, early Tuesday morning, 1 a.m. All those photos are in there, or a lot of them at least. You can go check those out. Those were great. I was not there at the Beanpot, and it wasn't intentional. St. Mark's and Dexter were playing. Had to go watch St. Mark's and Dexter. And Pat, I'll say this. It was worth missing the Beanpot for. That was a great hockey game. That's one of those games, and you know this, Pat, because you do the same exact thing over with girls. The games blend together. I couldn't tell you about a game I saw in mid-January 2 years ago. I couldn't do it. There are games that just fade into the background and you move on. That wasn't one of them. That was a thriller. That was I would dare I say an instant classic. 6-4 Dexter wins. Didn't look that way. Looked like this was going to be a rout. I don't root for anybody. I do not root for teams. I genuinely don't. I hate routes. Hate them. And I get that if you're on one side, it's great. I completely get that. But for what we do, routes they're not compelling. And it was 4-1 after 1, 5-1 Dexter after 2. Tommy Broderick scores a shorthanded goal. And then the third period's just St. Mark's comes out flying, scores 3 straight goals, 5-4 game. It's like, we got a ball game here. And then Dexter pulled away with the JP Missouri's second goal of the game, make it 6-4. But it was a phenomenal game. And I think there were so many different storylines that we can parse through from that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you're glad it ended up being a good game. You don't want to make that drive and have it be a rout. But, one of the storylines you kind of picked apart in your takeaways were, St. Mark's big guns showed up, especially Caden Pellegrino. You had Miles Brosnan on the other side, and 2 Player of the Year candidates showing out last night.
That's one of the things I went into it. You have the NHL draft prospect matchup with guys like Brosnan, Owen McHale, sneaky NHL draft prospect, even though he's not on Central Scouting. And then you have Will Manchuso on the other side. And we'll get to that in a bit. But Player of the Year, and it's something that, Pat, you and I are going to dive into online, I think, next week with kind of parsing through candidates. Boys' side, it's not super clear. But if I had to put a top 2, I think right now it's Brosnan and Caden Pellegrino. I think those are 2 right now that are really standing out. Manchuso and Nee, I know, also have cases for it as well. But just with Brosnan and Pellegrino, I was kind of going in thinking like, all right, let's see if one of them really goes off. Let's see if one of them separates from the other. I don't think they did because they both played well. Brosnan was a shutdown force for Dexter. He was great down the stretch. He was really good at the beginning of the game. And Pellegrino was a big reason why St. Mark's came back. He was phenomenal with the puck as always, created chances, got a couple assists, scored a nice goal. So hit the post top at the beginning of the second period. So like they both played well. And I think that's one of the things from this game in general where like, do I feel differently about either team? Not really. Like if Dexter had dominated play, if Dexter had won as they were on track to win like 7 or 8-1 or something, I'd be like, yeah, Dexter is clearly even better than, I mean, I have them at number 1, so I don't know how much better I can think that they are, but they're even better than I thought. And St. Mark's continues to struggle against really good teams, even though they just beat Governors. But like, yeah, this getting routed by Dexter's bad. I don't feel differently about St. Mark's either. Like every game I go to watch St. Mark's, they lose, which I feel bad about. And they lost to Tabor, they lost to Bell Hill. So I think that, they do need to rack up some good wins here down the stretch, but against a team that's better than them, they made it close. They fought. And I think that if they, came out better in that first period, it's a much closer game throughout. I don't know how you can be super pissed about that on their side either. So like, it's a boring take, Pat. And I hate this. Like, I want to come out of this with like a big sweeping take. I don't have one. It was a great game, and I don't feel differently about either side after. It was just a good game. The best players from both sides were the best players. And for St. Mark's, that's a big thing. Because in the games against Tabor and Bell Hill, Nee, Manchuso, and Pellegrino were not as potent as they can be. That wasn't the case against Dexter. They showed up.
You mentioned St. Mark's has lost every time you've been in the building this year. Carl Corazzini is going to tape your picture to the door with the big red circle with the line through it, banned.
Don't let him in. Don't let him in. But I have Carl on Bruins beat all the time. So it's like, if he's going to ban me from the rink, I might have to say, hey, no Bruins beats the rest of the year. No live streams the rest of the year. People will be pissed about that. But yeah, St. Mark's is good. Like St. Mark's to me is definitely an Elite 8 team. They should be in come the end of this month, which again, we'll do our Elite 8 projections this week, which I'm sure will age like a fine milk. But no, it was a great game and it was packed, which is like, that's what you want. Even though it was a Monday night game, Beanpot, there were a lot of NHL scouts there, Q scouts, all that, a lot of fans. It was a good game, no question.
Yeah. You mentioned, kind of last thing we can touch on was, all the NHL draft talent, all the player of the year candidates on the ice, a lot of overlap there. How much it was just truly best on best, which is what we do this for.
That's exactly it. Like that, those are the games you look at on the calendar. You're like, I'm there. No plans that night. I'm going. I thought Brosnan showed a different side of himself. Was way more defensive. Was way more physical than he normally is, at least from my viewings of him. And I think for NHL scouts, that's what they want to see. They know he has 40 points in like 21 games. He's far and away the best defenseman I think right now in prep. I don't think there's any question about that. But what defensively, and I think for him, like he was part of the. He was out there for some of the, I forget how many, but he was out there for some of the goals against there by St. Mark's, the top of the third period, but rebounded really well and locked back in. And I think that whole Dexter team did. So I think there's a lot to take away there for your NHL scout. Like, all right, face some adversity, but snap back into it, played really good defense down the stretch, managed the game, didn't try to do anything too crazy. I don't think you can be mad at that. And I think it actually helps his draft stock with that. And then Mancuso, first two periods was not, super noticeable, had some plays here and there, but not anything that was like, oh, he's dominating. And then he comes out in the third and scores two immediately. And it's funny because Brosnan really laid Mancuso out in open ice. And I'm like, and I'm going in the third period. I'm thinking like, I want to see Mancuso, get a big hit. I want to see him be really physical this period and show like, little something. Did one better, scored two goals, which like is his game. And so I think he helped his stock too. I mean, you see his speed out there. It's apparent. Actually, him and Brosnan were in a foot race for a puck at one point, which is like, oh, who's going to win it? And Brosnan just kind of kicked it into the corner. But yeah, I think they both improved their stock. It was like not everybody won, but like it was a good night all around. And one other person I want to mention for St. Mark's, Pat, Logan Cotter, 2010 defenseman, was outstanding on defense for St. Mark's. He's been a 10 that I've liked for a while, but my God, like poised with the puck, confidence, skating, everything like that. So I think that's a breakout game for him. I don't know if he had any points, but he was really good for St. Mark's. And yeah, it was a good game all around, Pat. It's a game we'll remember. Game we'll remember, which is all that matters.
Yep, and everybody gets a trophy, Evan. We
That's
know
right.
How you roll. We know
participation trophy, Evan. That's me, baby. Everybody was a winner on Monday night. We handed out medals to everyone.
We'll move on to some of your top 10. One team who had an alum that had a strong game in the BU Northeastern game would be Ben Merrill of St. Sebastian's. He's had a great freshman season, but we're not here to talk about Ben Merrill. We're here to talk about St. Sebastian's. They're back in the top 10.
They're back in it. They're back in it. Sebs, I can't tell you, Pat, the number of times I've been asked over the last 2 years, what's going on with Sebs? What's wrong? What's going on? Do they need change, full sale changes? How did because they had 6 wins last year. Right back in it. A lot of credit to that team. Guys like Jack Wheely, Cade Noonan, Tommy Saulnier and net's been absurd. I was looking at the stats last night. He's arguably goalie of the year. There's a couple others, Camden Jackson from Wilson. There's a couple others that are right there with him, but he has been outstanding in net for them. On D, there's it's a unit. Sam Fishbone. So like Sebs is back in it, and they had some huge wins over the past week. They beat Tabor, they beat Thayer, and they're hot at the right time. And I think we'll get into JSPR in a second, but they're 6th in JSPR and projected playoff seedings. They're 7th. They were 4th last night. I don't know why that changed, but at any rate, they're in the Elite 8 right now, which is crazy because that was a team that they're still so young. They have, I think, 9 seniors. Remember this is going to sound mean. Do you remember who was the announcer that did like the Tom Brady intro, that epic Tom Brady intro against the Colts? Kornhauser or someone when he was like, he has all these receivers and you don't know their names.
Oh,
you have a game for your life.
I don't know
That's Tom Brady. Yeah. He's like, their seniors all contribute and play really well. You probably couldn't name a lot of them. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, like they have broken out. They have proven to be really impactful players for Sebs. And Brendan Matthews has been huge for them so far this year. And Charlie DeLay and Jared Hughes and Ty Curry and Danny Porter. Danny Porter's a junior. But they have a lot of contributing seniors on this roster. And Oliver Manning on defense is one. So like they just get the job done. They just get the job done. And I think a big thing for them is going to be continuing that, whether they're a lower seed in the Elite 8, maybe they're a middle of the road seed in the Elite 8, or they're a large seed in the large school. Like Sebs is legit, and they have force themselves into the top 10. The ISL Keller is damn good, so they're going to have, tough matchups ahead. But right now, I don't know how you can overlook the Arrows. That's a good team. That's a real good team. And they have younger guys too. Chris Welby's an 8th grader. Like, and he's on the second line. I mean, and by the way, Jamison Needham, he came back recently. He's been scoring a bunch of their goals. So yeah, no, Sebs right now is rolling completely.
That's all you can ask for when you have seniors like that who maybe aren't, the biggest names, but just we've talked about it in the past, just be good prep hockey players and do your job and take care of what you need to take care of.
And those are the guys you win with.
Yeah.
Like those are you can have all the high-end talent in the world. You need guys that just do their job really well. Like they're on D for Sebs, they're just solid. They're just really solid. They move pucks well. That team plays really fast. And a lot of credit to Sean McCann, head coach. Like, Sean has done a great job with this group. And I think Sebs is back on the right track, no question.
We'll get into 2 more teams. We've talked about off and on these last few weeks, and it's, kind of trying to figure out what to make of them. Are they spoilers? Are they turning things around? One team we talked about as a spoiler, and they're into the top 10, is Berkshire.
Berkshire beat Salisbury last week. They tied Hotchkiss. They tied Avon a week before. They've won, they're 6-0-2 in their last 8. They've been really good. I mean, I think you look at their top line of seniors with James McMurray, Matt Lacombe, Jonah Ranish. They've continued to just be top producers for them. And someone that I don't think gets enough attention is junior Alex Kim in net. 147 goals against, 929 save. He's been great this year so far. They're just, reliable on D seniors like Dominic Soma, Gus Chong, Lucas Smith, James Riley. So like they, to me, continue to be, they're moving from spoiler to legit contender. I think coming up here, you have Canterbury on Wednesday, which is going to be a big matchup. Canterbury, we'll get to this in a second, fell to Winchendon 8-2, which is why they fell out of the top 10. But Canterbury's a borderline top 10 team. Then Berkshire has Kent, hard team, Brunswick, hard team, Hotchkiss again. So Berkshire is no question in a sort of not a rough spot, but like they've got some tough teams coming up, and their projected playoff seeding is 7 in the small school. I feel like it's going to be higher than that. But yeah, Berkshire's been a really good story so far this year.
You mentioned Winchendon. We had high hopes for them kind of coming into the year. I don't know if they were in your top 10, but they're either just outside or just in the back end. But they're kind of turning things around here down the stretch.
They are. I was texting with someone the other day. I was like, yeah, Winchendon, man, just can't, nothing's going right for them. And they're like, have you looked at their recent games? And I hate to say it, I kind of wrote them off a little bit. And I go and look, and they've won 6 in a row. They beat Hoosac, Cushing, Kents Hill, and then most recently Andover, Pomfret, and they beat Canterbury 8-2. They are rolling, and these are not close games. Like their goal scoring has popped off. And by the way, just for fun, the only loss since they're 9-1-0 in their last 10. Their only loss was to Dexter 9-2, which you think like, oh, that's a bad one. That was coming off a 6-2 win of Vermont Academy, 18-0 win of Wilbraham and Monson, and a 4-0 win of Pomfret. But one player who's been outstanding of late, and he's an NHL draft prospect, is Charlie Puglisi. That dude's going sicko mode, Pat. That dude's going sicko mode. He's putting up a ton of points. And I think he's been a huge revelation for them. He's clearly gotten going, and the rest of the offense has followed suit. So Winchendon is back. They are in the thick of things. You'll get into JSPR here in a second. They are not in the JSPR, but playoff seedings wise, they would be 4th in the small school projected final seedings. So they have a tough go of it the rest of the way, but you know what? Mike Bisconi and that team have turned that operation around, which I think is the most important thing.
You mentioned the 18-0 win over Wilbraham and Munson. I was curious to see what Puglisi did in that game. Only 6 points. 3 goals, 3 assists.
Dude, you got to step it up, man.
Pull the rope a little more.
Got
to pull the rope a little more in an 18-0
Doesn't want it. Don't draft him. Only 6 points in an 18-0 win. But he's been great. He's moved his way into potentially player of the year talks as well. So we'll dive into that next week.
Well, I think it's time for our weekly JSPR check-in.
Yeah, well, you got to look through it. And this will change probably by the time you hear this. But as we record it, Avon's number 1, Dexter's 2, Salisbury's 3, St. Mark's 4, KUA 5. They've been much better of late. We don't talk enough about them. Seb 6, Tabor 7, Hotchkiss 8, and Holderness, Belmont Hill, Canterbury, Rivers right outside. St. Paul's, props to them. They're right in the thick of things. They're at 13. So nothing crazy. Again, I still feel Avon, Dexter, and Salisbury are sort of a tier above everybody else. What's going to be really interesting is February 21st, far away from here. Avon is at Salisbury. So that'll be a great game. That's probably a game I watch online. Salisbury's like 2.5, 3 hours. And I know it's a Saturday, but that's a lot. So I'll probably watch that game online and still write something on it. A long way away. But that's going to be a matchup to watch coming up because Lord knows I'd love to see those two play. So yeah, nothing crazy with JSPR. Nothing insanely crazy. And that segues right into this, Pat. Girls prep. We talked about Tabor on the boys' side, Tabor on the girls' side. Hell of a week last week.
Yeah. Well, very quickly, speaking of not wanting it, watching it online.
I know.
No.
I know. It's a busy time of year, Pat. You know that.
I know.
I don't have a brother down in Connecticut I can go stay with.
It's true. Hey, he'd have you.
I would love to. I'll hit him up.
Tabor, yes, back in the top 5 in our rankings. A big weekend for them. They take care of Milton Academy. They take care of Westminster. Right in between those 2 wins is a 3-0 shutout of Dexter on the road. I was not there. Wish I was, obviously, after the fact. Gent were 3-0 shutout. So you want to wonder what the eye test was like. But Dexter does a good job of keeping their games on demand. Or it might have been at home, but if it was at Dexter, I'd like to go back and, kind of clip through the tape a little bit. But Jen Birolini scores twice. She recently committed to St. Michael's. It's very well deserved for her. She's someone we've talked about a lot. Just as, I think, and, others, just talking around the rink, like, how is she uncommitted still? And, with the cycles and being an older player, uncommitted, it kind of gets tough, but well deserved for her to get a Division I commitment. She's a Division I talent. A great goal scorer. So hat tip there. But yeah, Tabor, you just kind of look at it, is it a potential turning point week? Because we've talked about them, with their ups and downs offensively, but you come out this week, you get a 7-2 win over Milton, you get a 3-0 shutout over Dexter, you get a 3-1 win over Westminster. Birolini's obviously playing really well. Sophia Nardelli's been having a great sophomore season, as we talked about. And, you've got Evelyn Lacey, you've got the net figured out. Is this a week where, after you go 0-1-1 the prior week, you get 3 big wins this week, can you go off and running now? So that's what we'll be looking for Tabor going forward.
Was it Tabor last week that we were saying they have a huge week in front of them? They kind of like snuck back into the top 10. And if they can do well, or if they do bad, it's going to kind of go either way. Was that Tabor?
That was BB&N.
Okay. That was BB&N.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. But it was true for Tabor too. It ended up being true for Tabor because they jumped up 4 spots. One team, Williston's been your 1 all year, but there's another team that has a case for number 1 that's making it tough on you every week.
Yeah, honestly, we've talked about these top 4 teams and how they're just kind of in lockstep with, the JSPR and all that, but I think they all have a case for number 1. I so badly wanted to put Andover number 1 this week, but it was like, man, Williston didn't lose, and
just so you could do the headline of there's a new number 1.
Yeah. Williston didn't lose. They had good wins, but Andover had 3 wins, all against good teams. You take down Cushing, and Cushing isn't going to be what we expected of them this year, but it's still a good, skilled team that is going to give you trouble. They take down BB&N. That was a top 10 win. They take down Deerfield. That was a top 10 win. And they're all 4-1, I believe. And it's, just when you take care of a team like Deerfield, who is one of the top scoring offenses in prep, like I think they're top 5 in total goals, and you keep them to 1 and you beat them 4-1, that's a big one. And we've talked about Caroline Averill and Sarah Powers and the run they've been on, but it was kind of Kira Bruin's time to step up this week. She scored in all 3 games. She had a pair against BB&N. Maggie Averill had 3 assists against Cushing. Sienna Glass is someone we've talked about as just a college hockey prospect on the blue line. She scores twice against Deerfield, and Marie Lee had a great week in net. So Andover will have its hands full if Tabor, we talked about Tabor taking momentum. Big head-to-head this week with Andover. That'll be tomorrow on Wednesday. So that's just kind of the, what we'll be looking for there. And it's just, with Andover, I wanted to put them at 1 just because of, the three results against good teams, but then you also get into just the depth that they have. We've talked about Wilson where, their depth, no one's really lighting the world like insanely on fire. Andover, you've had Caroline Averill and Sarah Powers doing that for the last month. Then you also have a Kira Bruin and a Lily McInerney and a Maggie Averill on defense and all these other names that are just kind of chipping away and doing their thing. And then when it's a quiet week for those other two, they all step up this week. That's what you win with.
That depth is what wins championships. And I think you're right. Andover definitely has it. A team I mentioned mixing them up. BB&N, nice run in the top 10. They're a team you've talked a lot about of kind of a transition year. Two tough matchups this past week for them.
Yeah, and we kind of expected it. You have the big run of late, and then you kind of come into this week. You have Loomis, Chaffee, and Andover. That's a tall ask for any team. They actually gave Loomis a pretty good fight. 2-1 loss on the road, but then you fall to Andover 4-1. So that's just kind of them's the breaks have fallen out of the top 10, and you're not going to fault anyone for losing to those two teams in particular. But just we'll get to BB&N a little more when we get into our JSPR and playoff projections and all that. But it was competitive loss to Loomis. That's what you want to see. And yeah, just still have our eye on them.
And then two other teams that sort of with BB&N also kind of slid. They stay in the rankings, but slid a little bit. Dexter and St. Paul's.
Yeah, Dexter dropped out of the top 5 for the first time in about a month. If I had to remember off the top of my head, you stumble against Tabor, but then you surge right back with a 6-1 win over Brooks. Evelyn Doyle had a hat trick. Leah Hafer had 2. Elizabeth Allen had 3 assists. So that's kind of, their big guns doing their thing and, leading the charge in what was a big bounce back. They're still 5th in the JSPR, and we'll get to that. But another week where, Dexter kind of after, getting popped in the mouth against Tabor, how do you respond this week when you have Exeter on Wednesday and Groton on Saturday? 2 tough matchups, 2 matchups that on paper you're going in as the quote unquote favorite. Do you take care of business there? Does something not go your way again? And then St. Paul's, it's just kind of a winless week for them. They slide to number 10. It wasn't for a lack of offense in a scoreless tie with Groton, who re-entered the top 10. They had, I think it was 54 shots on net against Groton, and Nora Wilson pitched a shutout on the other side. And, Paige McPhee was also good as well. She had 29 shots or 21 saves for St. Paul's. And then you fall to Nobles. And again, Nobles is in that upper tier. You're not going to fault anyone for losing to them. Emma Burke did get her first career goal in the 3-1 loss. But yeah, just kind of, the way things shake out with the rankings, St. Paul's and Dexter sliding.
So the 54, you say 54 saves?
54 saves.
That still wasn't near the top. Last week, I was dying reading your top.
Oh, yeah.
It was Murphy Holden at Pingree, 90 saves. Was that in one game? It was against New Hampton, right? 90 on 96 shots. So she allowed 6 goals. I'm not a math guy. That's still over a 900 save percentage, right?
I think so.
Like, that's insane. 90 freaking saves.
We've talked about this before where, like, we just have to go off what the box score says.
You can put anything. We'll do it.
So I am taking it at face value. New Hampton is a better team than Pingree. I will take that at face value that she saw that many shots in the game, because there are games we go to, and some of the times where they do end up being routes, and we're like, man, we're just sitting here, and then but like you want to make the goalie one of your standouts so badly. It's like, well, they gave up 6, but when you're under that much just barrage in your own end, it's like, well, you gotta tip the cap.
Did Pingree leave their own end? I'd be very curious. Were they just in their own zone the entire time?
The on-demand stream.
Yeah, count it. It's like there's only 88 shots. Liars.
Only 70. Come on.
Oh my God. Get her out of the top performers. I'm kidding. That's a hell of a night. Whether it's 90 saves or 70 or whatever, that's you deserve a rest after that.
All we know is it was a lot, and it's well deserved.
Yes, no question about that. Groton, you touched on this a little bit. They're back in the top 10, baby. Groton's back in.
Yeah, you beat Govs. That's a quality win there. You take care of Holderness, what you should do. You tie St. Paul's. And then, just something I kind of have my eye on. It's probably nothing at all. So Tina Scalise, it was a comeback against Holderness. Holderness went up early. Scalise scored I think it was a shorthanded breakaway in the second, wins a face-off to set up a shot from the point for the go-ahead goal in the third. And so she's at the center of that comeback. But I'm just like, it's just kind of raise your eyebrow a little bit at Groton's offensive production since she came back from the U18s. They're without her for, however much in January, but they have a 5-0 win over Milton and a 6-3 win over Proctor. And they have players like, Zoe Smith's really stepping up and all this and that. But then, she's back and it's 2-1 win over North Yarmouth Academy. Again, you played a really good goalie in that game. You only get 1 goal and a 3-1 loss to Rivers. It's a 2-1 win over Govs, scoreless draw to St. Paul's, 2-1 win over Holderness. So it's just kind of, you look at those 2 games, those 2 wins before she came back in the lineup. I don't think she was back for Proctor yet. But again, it's probably nothing. You've played some good goalies, you've played some good teams, but it's just like, you get your star player back, you should be off and running. And it's kind of just struggling for offense, at least as far as the box score goes. I'm not there. I don't know if they're generating a ton of pressure. They definitely generated a ton of pressure in the MIAA game, and they just kind of got goalied. They win in overtime, and probably nothing at all. But it's just like one of those curious trends. You're like, what's going on here? This doesn't make sense.
Something to watch.
Yeah,
it's something to keep an eye on over the next month. She'll end up scoring like 20 goals this week, and
it'll
be over.
It's not like a her thing or a team thing. It's just kind of like that doesn't make a lot of sense. You should be putting up more goals than that. But again, you're playing good goalies and good teams, and everything. It's a good game every night. So
no question. It's time for this JSPR check-in. Where are things, Pat? What stands out?
Everybody's favorite time of the week. So nothing's really changed in the top 4, even the top 5. Top 5 hasn't really changed either. I think Dexter slid a little bit, but you have Williston number 1, Andover 2, Nobles 3, Loomis 4, Dexter 5, Deerfield 6, Tabor 7th, Exeter 8th. I don't think, if anything, Dexter flipped 1 or 2 spots, but nothing has really changed since last week. Groton is number 9, St. Paul's is 10. And you just round out the top 16 with, Taft, Choate, BBN, Rivers, Cushing, and Governors. Again, I think it's up to those final 3 spots, unless Tabor really crumbles or Deerfield really crumbles. I think it's up to that 8, 9, 10 spot of Exeter, Groton, St. Paul's of who's making up this last spot here. It's really interesting to look at, the projected playoff seedings. You get, that is that Elite 8 I just named: Williston, Nobles, Dexter, Andover, Loomis, Tabor, Deerfield, Exeter. Then you get into the projected large and small school tournaments, and these are really interesting fields. You get Thayer. Thayer would be the 7th seed in the large school tournament. I know if I were BBN at number 2, I would not want to face Thayer. Or you get in the small school tournament, Cushing would be the 3rd seed. They could easily just run through everybody as the 3rd seed. We know how capable their offense is. Frederick Gunn, who's been playing better of late, would be the 7th seed in the small school tournament. They have a good goalie. Not a team I'd want to see as if I were, Rivers at number 2. So it's just a lot of, when you get into, and again, these can all change. There's a lot of hockey left to play. Like, you got Middlesex as the 6th seed in the large school tournament. Janie Martin's been on an unreal run this season. I think she's still over a goal per game. So it's just when you get into those potential matchups in the large and small school tournaments, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. What's interesting is, like, I'm clicking on these teams and they have the results and schedule, which is great. Why are teams not submitting their stats? I'm on USHR right now. Why are you not submitting your stats? That'd be so good. Like, boys do it, and you can have all the archives of stats from 2002, and like, I think that's good. So I don't know, Pat. That's my plea for you. That they should be doing stats in USHR. I'll say it. I'll take one for you on that one. Let's dive into girls MIAA. We'll go with girls first on this. Milton, interesting week last week. They've been top team. They go face Brookline. 8-game winning streak is over.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know what it is with our our website, our publication, and jinxes, but we put them in our top spot, and they go and lose 1-1 with Brookline.
Tie.
Yes, lose 1-1. That makes sense, Patrick.
Wanted to make it clear.
It is, yeah. No, but it's Milton. We'll get to my new rankings in a week, and barring disaster this week, I don't think a lot will change for them. Sometimes you just have a quiet night offensively. We know what their offense can do with Sabrina Stone and Nayeli Thayer and Noel Gorham and all of them, and you've Kara Hart and net. But just right after we put them number one, offense kind of goes quiet. But then you look on the other side of a 1-1 tie with Methuen Tewksbury and HPNA, and it was all-out goalie duel. We know what both those goalies can do with Lydia Barnes and Chris Hinchcliffe. Sammy Ryan was the hero with the late equalizer for Methuen Tewksbury. But again, just kind of the flip side of how you look at 2 1-1 losses where Milton's like, you should have taken care of that, but Brookline's a good team. And then Methuen Tewksbury and HPNA, it's 2 conference rivals battling it out, and it could go either way. And Methuen Tewksbury was after we had dropped them from number one, after they had another tie. They've kind of they haven't struggled for offense this year, but they've been winning games 3-1, 3-0, 2-0. Not like the highest scoring team, but we know they've only given up like 4 goals all season long. 4 or 5 goals.
That's insane.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
So yeah, only 5 goals all season, and they gave up 2 in 2 games in their last 2. A 4-1 win over Andover, a 1-1 tie with HPNA. So better write the is the defense falling apart column now. 2 goals against in 2 games, but just 0-0 tie to MC. You get this low scoring tie with HPNA, but then you bounce back with a high scoring 4-1 win. So couple big matchups coming up. You got Billerica Chelmsford, you got Shrewsbury in a couple weeks. We will have our eye on those, but Methuen Tewksbury would be the favorite in those games.
And then you get into Bishop Feehan and Archie's. Feels like we're talking about them every single week. Interesting weeks for both those teams.
Yeah, it's our weekly Bishop Feehan and Archie's check-in. So St. Mary's kind of on the other side of both of these. Archie's tied St. Mary's 1-1 last week. I thought they were the better team for most of the game. I was at that game. Archie's first line, you get Izzy O'Brien back from injury. You're hoping to get Julie Murphy back soon before the playoffs. Archie's kind of getting healthy at the right time. Even without one of their better players, their first line with Izzy O'Brien and they were. I didn't think St. Mary's really had an answer for that line. Dominated possession, got pucks to the middle, really good quality chances, both at even strength and the power play. And you get on the second line with Mackenzie Lima Tower and Emily Fleming. And again, just just 2 tough matchups for other teams. And you got a defense that knows when to jump into the offense, cycle out high, or they got good skaters between Leah Greenwood and Kendall Nolan. So just everything kind of seems to come together for Archie's at the right time down the stretch. And you get into Bishop Feehan. We talked about their winning streak last week. They lose to Bishop Stang that ended a 6-game win streak. But then you bounce back and you hand St. Mary's their first loss of the season. So you've won 7 of 8. Georgia Murray is cooking right now. She had 4 points with 2 goals and 2 assists in the 4-2 win over St. Mary's. So your best player is doing her thing. It's finally kind of turning into results on the score sheet. And again, kind of like Archie's, it's just kind of coming together at the right time.
Yeah, no question about that. So that's it. That we should sponsor the weekly Feehan and Archie's check-in. That should, if someone out there has a business they want to have sponsor that, we're all ears. We are all ears. You can reach out to Patrick Donnelly at SiemensMedia.com and you can hit him up there. I like that. I always plug your email. The email Pat. Anyway,
Evans isn't hard to find either, guys.
It's very hard to figure out what my email might be. Hingham in Pembroke. That was quite the game.
Yeah, kind of it's tough to say it with D2 versus D1 matchup, but it was kind of a prove it game for Pembroke. Just playing a team that's ranked ahead of you. What do you got? And Hingham kind of held a pretty potent offense in check. It was I think a 2-1 game. CC Flynn and Hannah Lash score for Hingham. we'll see how it shakes out in our top 10 in a couple weeks. But yeah, just I was interested to see how Pembroke did there. We know what Hannah D'Angelo and what the rest of that offense has done kind of all season. And then it kind of goes quiet against Hingham. But that's a good win for Hingham after they kind of had some ups and downs over the last few weeks. Yeah, just a kind of good litmus test for both sides.
And then King Philip, their undefeated season comes to a close, right?
Yeah, they were 11-0-0 going into the week. You lose to Westwood, and then it's a scoreless tie with Canton, so your heater kind of comes to an end there. I'm hoping to still get my eye on King Philip this week. They get a big matchup with Duxbury. Very eager to see that one for both sides, because we've talked about KP's offense and the run that they've been on with Annabelle Curran and everyone else. But you got Franklin this week. That's a tough out. Duxbury, we obviously know a lot about them. So just eager to see them this week and get my eyes on them.
So before we do boys MIAA and kind of break down what's happened over the last week, crazy week. Craziest part is the Super 8 looks like it's on the way to coming back. It still needs to be voted on. It should be late February. It might be pushed a little bit, but 16-0 to bring it back. Essentially pool play. This would start in 27-28 on both the boys and the girls side. Super 8 stopped in 2021 because of equity, because girls did not have a Super 8 and the boys did. Now they are they wanted to take up until July of 2025 to just see how the D1 tournaments, let everybody play, would shake out. Super 8, everybody wants it back. And this isn't a surprise. There will be a story running. It's already out. Be going Tuesday, or went Tuesday. You're hearing this on Wednesday, probably, about our reactions to it. We can kind of get into it here. On the boys' side, Pat, I'm not shocked at this. I think everybody wanted this. I think it's compelling in that, you have the 8 best teams, most of which are probably private Catholic schools in that top 8. So people kind of want the publics to have Division I and to be able to do that. Ironically, and we'll get into this in a little bit, there are 2 Division II teams that would be in the Super 8 this year who are public schools. At least they're on track to be. So there are different modes there, but it probably be a lot of CM, St. John's Prep, Shrewsbury, Pope Francis, Zavarian, Arlingtons and Hinghams, and that's great. And I think that, look, I'm a benefit of the Super 8. I would love to sit here and say, oh, my Framingham team my senior year would have cruised past St. John's Prep and BC High and all those teams. But the reality is probably wouldn't have. So be having the Super 8 and letting the Division I tournament be probably mostly public schools. I think everybody likes that. Super 8 also carries a lot of cachet. So for the boys side, I can't think of anything. The only negative, I guess, is if you are a Tewksbury or Canton. I'm not saying that they would want this. But if they were like, hey, we have a really good team, we want to win Division II this year, and now we're in the Super 8, we'd rather just win a championship or, get further along than you would in a Super 8, or that, be likely to be in a Super 8. That's the only thing I can think of, and I can't imagine those teams would want to opt out. You can't under these rules, so I'm going to guess that they wouldn't want to, and they'd want to be in the Super 8 because, hell yeah, it's Super 8. But that's the only thing I can think of that would be negative on the boys' side. Girls' side, Pat, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it's to that point. It's kind of like we've termed it, in prep. It's do you want to get into the Elite 8 as the 8th seed, or would you rather be the number 1 seed in the smaller large school tournament and have a better shot at the trophy? Girls, there's obviously not as many divisions or as many teams on the girls' side. Just surface level, kind of like everybody else. I like that the Super 8 is going to be, back for boys, and I'm very excited about it on the girls' side because it kind of goes hand in hand. We talked a little bit about this last week, where just what I like to do, and stacking up each team in the power rankings by their overall rating and seeing how the divisions would mix and all that. And you get a team like Duxbury. If you're doing this today, Duxbury and Westwood would both be in the Super 8. Or actually, would Westwood be in? Westwood would be in barely over Bishop Stang. So you'd have Duxbury as the 7 and Bishop Westwood as number 8. You'd have teams like Bishop Stang, Hingham, Archie's all barely on the outside. Milton would be barely on the outside. And just we've talked about this on the girls' side, where just a lot of the best teams just play each other in general in the regular season, whether it's the Tenny Cup or you get the Hingham Showcase, or, MC is having their showcase this season. You get a lot of head-to-head matchups between the best teams between divisions already. Whether it's a Duxbury and Hingham, or NDA playing Duxbury in the Tenny Cup, and all this and that. So I personally love the idea of seeing those potential matchups in the Super 8 in a playoff scenario. Because a couple of years ago when we had those back-to-back Duxbury teams, and you have St. Mary's going undefeated in D1, and it's kind of like, man, Duxbury plays a really good game. I think they might be able to beat St. Mary's, as potent as St. Mary's was that year. So it's just kind of those thought exercises you do with yourself, and now you get the potential to see it play out in real life. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I am. Now, here's the question. How is championship day going to work? You're going to have 2 extra championships. They can barely handle the 6 that they have. So I'm going to think maybe you split them over 2 days. I think basketball definitely does that. You can't have all the games in one day. So I'm going to assume, again, this is down the road. I'd have to imagine they would split or find a way to have the Garden do another day or something. And I know that with pool play, it's easier than having the 3-game series. Boys used to have a 3-game series, but it's easier with pool play because the games are guaranteed. When you would have a 3-game series and the team would win in the first 2 games and it was over, that third, MIAA still had to pay for the ice for that third game. So rinks didn't like it because you're paying for ice that no one's using, and the MIAA didn't like it because you're
paying for ice no one's using.
So exactly, and that's the thing. So pool play, it seems to be something that people like. I think it's very interesting. There will not be any play-in games. It used to be with the boys. 7 would play 10 and 8 would play 9, and that would determine who were the final 2 seeds in the Super 8. No more. It's the top 8 seeds based on power rankings, and that's final. So good stuff. I have no problem with the Super 8 coming back. I don't think many people do. Judging by the voting, everybody likes it. So we're doing that kind of back and forth pros and cons story. I can't see a ton of cons. You're not Division 1 tournament for boys will still be good. I'm assuming with the girls, Division 1 will still be really good, and same with D2, even if the top 2 or 3 teams get skimmed off.
Yeah, as far as D1 side on the girls, you look at last year and kind of last few years, you have the number 1 seeds, and I think St. Mary's might have been the number 2 seed the year they won. However it shakes out, they were a favorite. Hingham was number 1 last year, but when you go down the list, and last year it was a PBD Linfield North Reading that was a high seed, but it's well, when it gets down the stretch, do they have much of a chance against the Hingham? And this year, when you look at a Woburn or a Reading or an MC that's kind of having a down year, or an Arlington Catholic that we've talked about is a really tough out, and it's those are teams that just how do things shake out for them down the stretch when you have those just top favorites. So it's like you said, kind of like we talked about with getting into Elite 8 on the back end, or Super 8 on the back end, or being able to make a run in your own tournament. It's kind of more opportunity for those other teams to make runs.
Yeah, no question. Diving into some of the boys MIA stuff this week, because there's been quite a bit. I mentioned 2 Division 2 teams, Tewksbury and Canton would be in the Super 8. They are running the table in the Ed Burns. Running the table. Tewksbury on Sunday night beat Arlington 2-1. That was a really good high school hockey game, man. That was good. Low scoring, defensive, and Tewksbury's really good. I like Arlington is a very good team. Still in my top 10. They should be, at least, unless something crazy happens. They beat Winchester on Saturday. Tewksbury's just overpowering. They have depth. Tyler Bourget, we've mentioned him before on here. He had 6 goals against Weymouth. Held off the score sheet against Arlington, but still super potent. I think Tewksbury really has something going there. And then, dude, I was not at this game, but I saw John Missouri at Dexter St. Mark's, and he's like, yeah, Canton beat Hingham 5-0. It's like, excuse me? I thought that'd be much closer. And Hingham I had as my top public school team. Clearly not anymore. Canton with a huge win over them. Ryan Elrick, longtime Junior Eagles, scored 2. Some of the others who scored goals, Kellen Labanara, Joey Ryan, Braden Dickey. So we're going to get our wish. Canton Tewksbury in the Ed Burns championship game. They have not played each other all year. They're the 2 powers in D2 by far. They are to the point where they would have been in the Elite 8, the Super 8, I think, pre those 2 games this past weekend, based on their power rankings. So they're rolling. That's going to be a great championship game. Please, God, don't let it be during the Super Bowl. Oh my God, please, please, please block off the 2 hours before it. Have the game at 7 a.m. I don't care. Like, just by God, please don't let that be in the Super Bowl, because I can't promise that I'll be there for that. But that's going to be a really good one. And I think those two teams, I think we're in a world, Pat, where the two best public school teams this year are in D2. Unless something drastic changes with Arlington and Hingham, which maybe it will. Tewksbury and Canton are strong, man. And they look good. So I'm very excited to see that championship. That's going to be a really good game.
So it'd be a good year to have the Super 8. I keep almost saying Elite 8.
Because that's what we're programmed to. And we're going to say that forever. We'll probably start saying Super 8 when we're talking about the Elite 8.
But it would be, with Canton and Tewksbury in, it'd be the perfect, this is why you have the Super 8. Can these public schools in D2 take down St. John's Prep and CM, and Xaverian would be in, who knows, but that's why you do it. That's why you roll the balls out and you play the game. But if it was during the Super Bowl, you just have to do it, the dual screen red zone action, just put it up on the laptop in front of the TV and just keep your eyes on both games. That's
right. Or be at the rink and have it on the phone. That'd be even better. I'm sure with all the Super Bowl party that we're going to have, that love missing that. So hopefully they schedule around the Super Bowl. I'm sure ice is very easy to come by during the Super Bowl, though, because I can't imagine many teams will be practicing during that time.
You mentioned John, Missouri, Arlington. They beat Winchester the day before.
Yeah, they did. They beat Winchester. Arlington, again, still one of the top public schools in Division I, still one of the top public schools in the state. And it proves that they still have it. Like, again, they played a back-to-back. Tewksbury had a week off. So I think if those two teams played like a 3 or 7 game series, I think that's going to the final game. I think they're close. I didn't see the Canton Hingham games. I'd be very curious to see like what happened there for Hingham, because I was at Hingham Pope Francis on Saturday at Pilgrim, and Hingham played a really good game. Pope Francis won. Pope Francis is actually getting back into things. Pope Francis starting to make a turn, and they won 2-1. It was a really good high school hockey game again. Hingham's a hell of a place to watch a game. I know you've been there quite a bit. I haven't been there in the last couple of years just because I end up seeing Hingham closer here when they're playing Catholic conference teams, or I see them a lot of times in Arlington. Pilgrim's just how I remember it. I remember playing there. And that rink A is a hard rink to play in. It's small. Everybody's on top of you. And I love the old dudes. I don't know if they're grandparents. I don't know who they are, why they're there, but they just love Hingham hockey, and they yell the whole game, and they will sit there and criticize every bad play under their breath. And I love it because I was next to a couple of those guys, and it's just like it's a hockey town, man. That's a hockey town. And it's just, there's a second level, you know what I'm talking about, like right over that net. And oh my God, the refs yelling back at them. It's just good. It's an old barn. And I know that it's kind of crappy, and a kid got his arm stuck in the glass. Like, that's pretty low rent, but I love it. I absolutely love it. Give me that over a sterile environment every time.
I love that the Hingham locker rooms are on that second level and they have to come up and down the stairs. I think that's so, it's funny, but it's also just like awesome because it's just like you said, it's an old barn. You don't get that everywhere else. We'll touch on 2 more things before we wrap up. St. John's Prep, they're still rolling. They beat Xaverian.
Yeah, SJP looks like they might be the number 2 team in the state. It looks like they've worked their way back up. Their second trip through the Catholic Conference has been nothing but success. Big Wednesday game as Xaverian and CM. I plan on being there. So it's, if Xaverian can beat CM, then it's Xaverian could be making a case for 1. Xaverian definitely keeping a case to stay at 2. But a big win for SJP, no question. Over Xaverian, and then kind of just elsewhere in the Catholic Conference before we wrap up here. Arlington Catholic, right after that Arlington Tewksbury game, took down Archie's 4-0. AC continues to roll, man. Like, that team is good. I want to get out and see them at some point because they've been really good. They're in the power rankings for Division I. They're sort of near the end of the top 10, but they're very much in there. They're a team that if they're a 9 or 10 seed in the Division I tournament, man, I don't know. I don't know if I want to play them if I'm a 2 or 3 seed, or however the bracket shakes out. That's still kind of far away. By the way, also want to give a shout out, because it's always a big deal when it happens. Framingham beat Natick on Saturday night. It's a big rivalry game. Those who know. 4-3 Framingham win. Framingham's good. Like, Framingham's right there, man. Just saying. When I do my sleeper teams for the tournament, we always do this. They're going to be in it. No bias, but Framingham's going to be in it.
He's compromised.
I am compromised.
Do you want to skate fast? For 50 years, Laura Stam instructors have taught youth players to pros how to skate correctly, powerfully, and fast. Players who attend Laura Stam power skating programs learn how to skate fast by learning how to execute every maneuver in hockey. They become powerful, stable, efficient, and explosively fast skaters. If you can't wait for a clinic, join our subscription skills video service, and we'll show you the skills taught at our clinics in an easy-to-use video format with training plans to guide your training. Register or subscribe now at laurastam.com. That's LauraStamm.com. You can learn to skate fast.
We've hit on everything today. We've done boys prep, girls prep, boys MIAA, girls MIAA. We touched on the Super 8. Before we go, overtime with our great producer, David Yaz.
Overtime.
Yes. Once again, time for overtime, where I give each of the panelists here 3 questions they're unprepared for. We are going to play trivia again by popular demand, I guess. Or Evan's bitter because you lost the last time. So time for redemption, maybe. We are going to do just 3 questions each. The subject are NHL enforcers. I didn't say goons, but if you prefer goon, on behalf of the goon community, go for it. What the heck? Question number 1, we'll start with you, Evan. Which player, these are multiple choice, by the way. Which player holds the NHL record for most career penalty minutes? Is that A, Dave Schultz, B, T-Dome, I never can pronounce his name, Ty Domi, C, Tiger Williams, or D, Marty McSorley? Most career penalty minutes, Dave Schultz, T-Domi, Tiger Williams, Ty Domi, whatever it is, or D, Marty McSorley.
Tiger Woods. I'm going to go Marty McSorley.
Tiger Williams.
Most penalty minutes ever.
The answer is actually Tiger Williams. Sorry. It's okay.
Did you know that, Pat?
I wouldn't have been confident, but he would have been my guess because I've listened to enough Jeff Marek over the years.
Oh, I haven't.
Pat, to you, who was the face of the Flyers' Broad Street Bullies as the NHL's most feared enforcer in the 1970s? Was that A, Bob Kelly, B, Dave Schultz, C, Don Selesky, or D, Gary Dornhofer? Dornhofer. A, Bob Kelly, B, Dave Schultz, C, Don Selesky, D, Gary Dornhofer.
Schultz?
Schultz is correct.
Oh my God.
I was going to say, because Pat, that was one of the multiple choice for me. So I was like, it must be that one. It's like on a test when you just, the answer before gives the next answer away.
I had no idea on that one.
Pat holds a narrow 1-0 lead. To you, Evan, which NHL enforcer was known by the nickname the Grim Reaper? Was that A, Bob Probert, B, Joey Kosur, C, Stu Grimson, or D, T. Domi?
Who are these people? Can you repeat A through C again?
Which NHL enforcer was known by the nickname the Grim Reaper? Was it A, Bob Probert, B, Joey Kosur, C, Stu Grimson, or D, T. Domi?
Stu Grimson. Easily Stu Grimson.
Correct. Yes. The clue was right in there.
No, I didn't even think of that. I just always pick C if you don't know the answer.
Oh, really?
I didn't realize that.
His name's Stu Grimson. I think that's why he was the Grim Reaper. All right. To you, Pat. Which Maple Leafs enforcer once jumped into the penalty box to confront heckling fans?
Ty Domi.
Yeah, it's there.
That's correct. All right. Pat holds a 2-1 lead heading into the final round. Evan, nicknamed the Sheriff, which Colorado Avalanche enforcer was known for his feared fighting and tough guy role? Was that A, Adam Foote, B, Scott Parker, C, Dan Hinault, or D, Ian LaPierre?
Sheriff was Shane Knighty, right, Pat? Like that around here.
Different sheriff, I
They
guess.
call him the sheriff. So what was it?
A, Adam Foote. B, Scott Parker. C, Dan Henote. Or D, Ian LaPierre.
I'll say Ian LaPierre.
That's not it.
Damn it.
We're looking for Scott Parker. And we'll play out the string here and have Pat answer this last question. Which Red Wings enforcer was known for a devastating right hand and frequent bouts with Bob Probert? Was it A, Darren McCarty? A, Darren McCarty. B, Joey Kosur. C, Slava Fedosov. Or D, Kirk Maltby?
Darren McCarty.
No. Well, Evan, you only lost by one.
Red Wings I could have.
That's not bad.
The answer was B, Joey Kosur? Kosur? I don't know.
Sure.
Well, Pat takes it. I had a tiebreaker question, which we don't need, but I think you guys know the answer to this one. It's a two-parter. You can just shout it out if you know. Who was the Bruin who went into the stands and beat a fan with their own shoe, and what year did that occur in?
It was Milbury in 78.
That
Milbury is correct. And
78 would have been my guess.
79.
Huh?
Close though.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
I do remember it. Sure as hell wasn't yesterday. But terrific job to you both. You're both.
Hey, do we want to make Super Bowl predictions while we're on here?
Sure. Yeah.
You go first, Yaz. What's your thought?
Okay. Bear in mind, I've been going to watch the Patriots play live since 1977. That old, and I was in the arena for the last game in that stadium, which was, of course, the snow game. I'm stalling. The prediction is, I think this is going to come down to the coaches. I think Mike Vrabel is going to outcoach. What's his name? McDonald? What the other guy?
Mike McDonald.
And I think Sam Darnold is genuinely going to be confused. And I like the Pats 27-10.
Wow.
Whoa.
I know.
I love that.
And no one's going to see it coming, but it's coming. I mean, we haven't seen the real Drake May in these playoffs at all, right? Absolutely ridiculous pass rushes he manages to endure, but all three games had some element of weather. This one won't. And Josh McDaniels will call a good game. Anyway, Evan, you want to go?
Prep fans who are Pats fans will love this prediction. I have Seahawks 28-24.
Oh God.
Yes,
you know.
Yes, I completely agree with you that we have not seen the best Drake May yet, and we're due, and we have not seen the worst Sam Darnold yet, and we are due. But that's a lot of talent over there, and I hope I'm wrong, but that's my prediction. But again,
are you saying the prep fans know that you're always wrong? Is that it?
In championship games, yes.
Okay.
I was thinking last night, playoff games, Pat and I are like tit for tat on getting all these right. But championship games, I was 2 for 3 last year, but the year before I was 0 for 3. So I have a bad reputation with that. So I'm going Seahawks 28-24. Pat, what about you?
Man, I agree with kind of everything here. I think they have the coaching advantage. I think, we're due for good Drake May. We're due for seeing ghost Sam Darnold. I do think the talent discrepancy is wild. And, say what you want about the schedule. The Seahawks have proven it against better teams, and your schedule is your schedule. I'm not, not one of those scheduled people for the Patriots. But I'm not going to pick against the Patriots. I'm not going to pick against them. Even they're rightfully underdogs, but this is why you play the game. And you can. I was in diapers in 2001, so I obviously don't know the exact vibes 25 years ago, but feels like a little 2001 vibe from what I can gather from the NFL films and all that I've watched over the years. So I will go Patriots. I don't know how you get to this score. I'll go Patriots 23-18. I don't know how you get to that score.
18. That's
I don't
awesome.
know how you get to that score, but I'm going to go with it.
That's great.
Weird things are going to happen in San Francisco.
The similarities are numerous to the 2001 team. And this is all just for fun. I don't know if football karma really exists. Like, just because it looks like something that happened 25 years ago, does that mean it's going to happen again? But in that game, again, that's why I'm picking the way I'm picking, because in that game, Belichick completely outsmarted Mike Martz. And from the beginning of the game, you could tell something was off with the Rams. Now, they eventually got it together in the fourth quarter, but it was too late. The moment Ty Law picked off that pass, it was like, it's been said before, it was like the moment in Rocky IV when Rocky gets a shot in on Ivan Drago and he starts bleeding, and it's like, the Russians cut, he bleeds, and it's like they were just, but the Patriots hit like hell in that game. And that pick six by Ty Law, who was about to sack Kurt Warner on that play?
Mike Vrabel.
Mike Vrabel. Very good. Another point for Pat.
Damn it.
Last thing to draw comparisons to another Rams Super Bowl is, in 2019, you have inexperienced coach in McVay, inexperienced quarterback in Jared Goff, and you have an inexperienced coach in Mike McDonald, an inexperienced quarterback in Sam Darnold. And like, one of my favorite stories is Brian Hoyer figuring out that McVay was in Goff's ear until 15 seconds or whenever the mic cuts out. And he would tell him what the coverage is. He would tell him where to go with. He'd tell him pretty much, he'd give him the answers to the test. And so the Patriots didn't put their, set up or whatever with their coverage until after the mic goes out, and Jared Goff had no answers at all.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
And Belichick got a lot of credit for that, right?
Brian Hoyer was the one. Sorry, Brian Hoyer was the one who discovered that. Yeah,
there's a clip of him, or an old article. I think, like, because McVay, like, the media loves McVay because he talks, but it also gets him in trouble. He talks a little too much sometimes.
Yeah.
I think there was something, Brian Hoyer said he had heard that somewhere or seen that somewhere, but Belichick gets his credit for that too, and Brian Hoyer had his part in that. But just the scheme that the Patriots had in that game, like, maybe, obviously, I don't think Mike or whoever the offensive coordinator in Seattle is in Sam Darnold's ear telling him exactly what's going to happen. But is there something like that can play out? Some sort of just X's and O's advantage you pick up? Never know.
Super Bowl experience matters. Josh McDaniels has been in like more Super Bowls than he hasn't. Like, it makes a difference. Sorry, Evan.
It does. I'd like to cover my ass on one thing. Obviously, I will not pick against the Pats on Sunday, and I will be rooting for the Pats hard. And I will, that will be where my money is.
You might be right.
But my gut instinct, Yaz and Pat, is that it's a nice run, but I think the Seahawks ended here. And I hate that I feel that way, but that's what my gut instinct says.
If the Patriots lose, we should all feel, we're all going to be pissed because we're sports.
Yeah.
But what a season. Come on.
You can't be mad at that.
Exactly. The season's already a success no matter what. I don't care.
I agree.
But I still like the Pats.
So to close the loop on that Hoyer note, it was, I think Albert Breer wrote it after the Super Bowl, talking with like McCourty and other guys from the defense. But Brian Hoyer was in that McVay Shanahan offense when I think he was a backup with the 49ers, and Shanahan, McVay was a tight ends coach or whatever he was. And then he had also seen an NFL Network interview where, Sean McVay talks too much sometimes, where him and Goff talked about him being in Goff's ear until the 15-second mark.
It's a thinking man's game. Go
Big
Pats.
brain stuff. All right, go Pats. That's what we have. That's what we'll end on. The person who picks against the Seahawks picks the Seahawks.
Not a college hockey podcast, but a Super Bowl podcast.
That's RinkWise. We'll have lots of stuff for you coming up. We will see you next week, and we will see you at the Rinks.